Welcome back to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host, Iceman, and today we're going to be going over part 3 of Avatar cards you missed. These cards are $2 and under on TCG Player. First up, we have Seismic Tutelage. This enchantment is a 3 and a green, and it costs 59 cents. It's an aura. It says Enchant Creature. When this aura enters, put a +1/+1 counter on enchanted creature. And whenever enchanted creature attacks, double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. So this enchantment is going to do a lot of work the same turn it comes down. Doubling the counters is going to be insanely fast on any deck that has +1/+1 counters. Keep in mind, Earthbending puts +1/+1 counters on the land, so this does work well with Earthbending decks and commanders, but there's so many Hydras and +1/+1 counter decks that go tall that this is gonna be very, very good, very fast. The +1/+1 counter it gives is not a huge difference, but it is certainly going to help speed things along. Even if you only have a creature that's like got 4 counters on it, which is not very hard with all these mana costs that cost X and then says put X +1/+1 counters on the creature. So it's pretty easy to get 4, but even if you do that, the turn you play this, that 4 goes to 5, then the 5 goes to 10 when it attacks. That's a lot of power for one turn, and the longer this stays on, then 10 goes to 20, 20 goes to 40, it's going to end the game real quick if you have any sort of evasion or trample. Next up, we have Overwhelming Victory. This is an instant lesson that is 4 and a red for the mana cost. This costs 49 cents on TCG Player, and it says Overwhelming Victory deals 5 damage to target creature. Each creature you control gains trample and gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the amount of excess damage that was dealt this way. This card is, I'm going to say, a pretty rare red pump spell. Red has a lot of pump spells, but they're usually +2/+0. And the instant speed makes this pretty nice. The fact that this is potentially removal on top of the pump is pretty good, especially because you can do this during combat. You can attack. They're thinking, oh, you don't have lethal on me, I'm not going to block, or I'll block with just this one, and then you can use this to remove that one and then pump up your creatures and get lethal. The trample it gives is also pretty unique. Red doesn't have the pump spells red has don't give trample, and you could always use this on your creature, especially if you have a 1/1 token. Then this would give the +4/+0. Normally that is the most this will give, but red has many ways to have additional damage be done with cards, so you could easily use damage doublers to give, instead of 10 or 5 damage, you double it to 10 or 15, and you could copy this spell. There's a lot of ways to abuse this card, and 5 mana is a little bit much for a removal spell, but if you think of this as a red finisher / removal spell, this is going to do a lot more work that way, because that +X/+0 and trample is going to be pretty good. Next up, we have Animal Attendant, which is $1.82. This creature, it costs 1 and a green. It's a human citizen with 2 power and 2 toughness. It says tap, add 1 mana of any color. If that mana is spent to cast a non-human creature spell, that creature enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. So it doesn't provide extra mana for a mana dork, which is, that part's a little bit of a downer, but the whole +1/+1 counter for non-human spells, I mean, a lot of the creature spells are going to be non-human, especially if you're putting this in your deck. So this is just going to be incremental over time, using this to cast your creature spells and pumping them up a little bit. Gonna get +1/+1 counter synergies. It's going to get that ball rolling right away. So this is just going to be a good value piece that is going to create so much more value the longer it stays on the board. Next up, we have a favorite of mine, the Unagi of Kyoshi Island. The Unagi costs $1.65, and it is a legendary creature serpent. It costs 3 blue blue with 5 power and 5 toughness. It has flash, always nice. It has ward, Waterbend 4, which is when this creature becomes the target of a spell or ability, an opponent controls counter it unless they pay 4, and they can use mana from them to pay for that, or they could tap their artifacts, or they could tap their creatures to pay for it. So, and then the very last ability, the one you're going to build around, is whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, you draw 2 cards. So, I have built an Unagi of Kyoshi Island deck with this as my commander, and it is just so fun to play. You draw so many cards. When this is the commander, it's even easier. You trigger this every turn it's out. Every turn your opponent has, you're drawing 2 cards. Yes, you're drawing them 2 cards, or I mean, you're not usually drawing them 2 cards, because the way you typically do this is you play cards that let each player draw an extra card on their upkeep or something like that. So they draw during their draw step, and they draw during their upkeep, and then boom, they've drawn 2 cards. So you're going to draw 2 cards. And when you're playing with a 4-player table, that means you're going to be drawing 8 cards per turn, which is insane, because you're going to draw 2 for each opponent. That's 6, 1 during your upkeep, and then that card is the other card is typically going to draw you a card during your upkeep. So you got your upkeep and your draw steps. So that's 2 on your turn. It's going to be 8 cards. That is, your hand is always going to be full when you're playing this one, which is so fun. And for finishers, I would just play cards that pumped or created creatures whenever you draw a card. So whether you're going tall or wide, you kind of have the variety in that aspect. The flash is super nice. The ward is not an impossible cost to pay, but they typically do have to go shields down or basically give up their turn, because Ward 4 is a good bet, and unless they're playing a deck that spits out a bunch of artifact tokens or really go wide creature deck, then it's going to be too much of a hindrance to pay. And even go wide creature decks, they don't really want to tap 4 creatures. Then they either have no blockers or less attackers. Highly recommend giving that one a chance. And last up, we have Azula, Flame of Ember Island. Also, this is a reprint of a card called Daishin Artful Beauty. The original card does not have, like, it might have like 1 reprint, and is really old, so it's that card's pretty expensive. But this one that's been reskinned to have Azula on it from Avatar, this only costs $1.50, and it is a creature, the legendary human advisor, with 3 and a red for the mana cost, and 1/1 power and toughness. It says tap, destroy target creature of your choice, then destroy target creature of an opponent's choice. Activate only during your turn before attackers are declared. So, yeah, you got to use this on your turn during your first main phase or at the beginning of combat before your attackers are declared. But that's really not a big deal, and an opponent choosing a creature is not a big deal. There's often an arch enemy that you could pick somebody else, and then you'd be like, you know what, can we team up here? You don't choose my stuff, and I'll let you pick the other creature to be destroyed. And you're basically getting 1 creature you definitely want off the board, and 1 creature that you may or may not care about, or maybe you do get a second creature that you do want off the board, and you can do this again and again every turn you have. It is, or you could do the opposite. You can go to the arch enemy and be like, I'd like a turn of you not attacking me. I won't pick your stuff if you won't attack me and you don't pick my stuff. So this is a way in red to destroy any creature. Not a you need enough damage to be dealt to the creature. Most of red's removal is damage based. And that is it. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to help the channel grow.